Hi, welcome to this video as we begin to go step by step through Mark's Gospel. Maybe you're asking yourself this question: why bother watching these videos? Why bother going through Mark's Gospel? Well, can I answer that question with another question? Do you want to hear good news about someone who can change your life and who will blow your mind? Because if you do, that's what you'll get in Mark's Gospel. The very first thing that Mark writes in his book, the very first verse of this Gospel is this: the beginning of the good news about Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. Right at the very beginning, Mark tells us that this book, Mark's Gospel, is a message of good news. I wonder, how do you answer that question? Do you want to hear the good news first or the bad news? Have you ever been asked that? Well, maybe you're someone who says, let's have the good news because that will help me to hear the bad news. Or maybe you're the other way around. You say, let's have the bad news first because I know the good news is coming. Whichever answer you give, you realize that the good news is the best news. It's the news that you really want to hear. Well, as we come to Mark's Gospel, it's good news. It's a message that we should all want to hear. So it's good news. But Mark tells us more than that. It's good news about a person. Who? Jesus, the Messiah. If we were to go back 2,000 years, we would find Jesus being born in Bethlehem. A few years later, he would die on the cross just outside Jerusalem, and then the Bible tells us that he rose again. He's an historical character. But these descriptions here tell us more than that. They tell us a bit about why he came and who he was. You see, the name Jesus means something. It means saviour or rescuer. Recently, I went on holiday to the town of Cromer on the east coast of England. And while I was there, I came across a statue of a man called Henry Blogg. Now, Henry Blogg lived from 1876 to 1954. And he was a lifeboatman. One of the most, if not the most, decorated lifeboatmen in our nation's history. Now, what was his role as a lifeboatman? Well, his role was to save people. His role was to go out in his lifeboat when people were in danger and rescue them from that danger. Well, the Bible tells us that Jesus came on a rescue mission. Jesus came to rescue you and me. Why do we need rescuing? Well, the Bible tells us because we've disobeyed God, and therefore we deserve his judgment. So this is good news about Jesus as Saviour. But Mark also tells us that Jesus is the Messiah. What does that mean? Well, the word Messiah means anointed king. Throughout the Old Testament, God has been speaking about a kingdom that he will establish. And a kingdom needs a king, and so he is going to send a king. We're going to read more about that as we go through Mark's Gospel and explain and see a little bit more about what that kingdom means. But here, Mark is making very clear to us that Jesus is God's king. So this is good news about someone who can change your life, but Mark says more than that. It's good news about someone who will blow your mind. Here he tells us that Jesus is the Son of God. I remember when our first children were born. They were twin boys. They were born in the August, and when Christmas Day came around, I remember holding them. They were still tiny at that point, and just marveling at their tiny bodies, their tiny fingers, their tiny toes. And it made me think about Mary and Joseph holding the newborn baby Jesus. How they must have wondered just at that tiny, perfectly formed body. But of course, Jesus was more than just a baby boy. There was more to wonder about than the tininess of his features. The Bible tells us he is God who has come down into this world. And as we go through Mark's Gospel, we'll see more of that, of his authority and of his power. And we will marvel, and our minds will be blown as we take seriously what Jesus is all about. So I'm excited to be beginning this journey, going step by step through Mark's Gospel, seeing more of Jesus and what he means to us. And I want to invite you to join us on that journey. We're going to be bringing out maybe about 2 videos a week as we go through the book, probably on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And if you want to be notified of those videos, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or like our Facebook page, and you should receive notifications of those videos. Hopefully, see you next time as we dig in a bit further to Mark's Gospel.